you gotta embrace those failures and rejection. I would pick up the phone for maybe 6 hours a day, cold calling. And 99.9% of those people were like, no, are you crazy? You have to keep it going. You have an agenda in your mind. You have to create an agenda that this is how you're going to pursue that for success in your mind. It's the truth. You have to keep going and don't take rejections personally. And this comes with practice. Why would I dedicate my life to working for someone else? It's not an option for me. It really comes down to what you want out of your life. And I feel like every young professional in our age or after high school or early 20s, they have to really sit down and understand what they want out of their life and really create that path for it. Adults ask after high school, they're like, oh, what are you gonna do now? But if I had a kid, I would tell them, like, maybe take a year off, really explore the world, see what you want, you know, don't rush it, because this is the first time that you don't have to be somewhere.
What inspired you to start the Sadra podcast, and what message do you hope to convey from there?
Great question. So this has been asked a lot from me recently. And the main reason I've started the Sadra podcast is that I want to maybe give a voice for young professionals and really motivate the people, maybe a high school student or early 20s, someone is watching my stuff and my episodes, they really learn that the people that are successful in what they do and are motivated in that sense are no different than them. For example, if you're playing video games and you see on social media, for example, wow, this character is successful at their age, you may think that they are different in a way that what you are, but it really comes down to the mindset and the habits that they've put in. And I just try to portray that in the guests that I interview, like really get into their head and see how they think and go about everyday tasks and maneuver themselves in the world, to really portray this image that successful people are really not much different from you, but they just have a different mindset and they've wired their brain a certain way to align themselves with the future success that they were going to have.
And then you mentioned about the mindset. What would you say is sort of your mindset when you keep doing like 10,000 different things and still make for time, time for like your school or your social life? What's the mindset that keeps you going?
Your mind is truly the only thing you have absolute power over in this world. I truly believe that. So, for me personally, the mindset that I have is I want to be as productive as possible. So, when I'm working on something, my phone is outside of the room. I don't look at it. It's just deep work and really getting to the flow of the work. And you gotta love it. You gotta love the work, because without the work, the results won't come. And when I was 7 years of age in grade one in Iran, my mother put me in 4 different classes: swimming, piano, chess, and English. And really, I wasn't raised a normal kid. I didn't have any social life to have a console to play video games or really have that social aspect of hanging out with friends in that age. I was just focused on being the best at these classes and what I do. So it kind of brings me to my upbringing as well. Like, I was different in that sense. And when I came to Canada, I was like a shock that, wow, like I have so much free time,
Yeah.
right? So I'm slowly getting back to those habits that I really need to do all aspects and really push myself to see what I'm capable of.
Yeah, because as international students, when we enter Canada, sometimes we go crazy. Like, oh, there's too much freedom in our hands, What do we do? But I think it's very important to understand the value of that freedom. Like, you'd mentioned during our podcast as well, that taking, like, doing those productive things early on will help you go a long way.
100%. If I do have kids, and I think in my current state I will, um, I will put them into as many things as possible at as
Yeah.
early a stage as possible.
Yeah, makes sense. Even my mom, you just do this. But with a lot of things that you do comes moments of success and moments of rejection. How do you face rejection?
You got to embrace those failures and rejection. So early on, for example, I have a startup, tech startup, and we had the prototype out, and I had to reach out to companies at this point. And I would pick up the phone for maybe 6 hours a day, cold calling. And 99.9% of those people were like, no, are you crazy? Like, bruised, very, very tough rejection.
Yeah.
And it's just that you shouldn't take it personal. You have to keep it going. You have an agenda in your mind. You have to create an agenda that this is how you're going to pursue that for success in your mind. It's personal. But then if you see rejection, it shouldn't set you off your path, and you have to, stick to your roots, really. It's important. So in my sense, I just kept going. That's the true, it may be boring answer, but it's the truth. You have to keep going and don't take rejections personally. And this comes with practice. Not everyone is made to, the next day you cold call and you get rejected. And I'm just not saying like be numb to it, but just slowly learn to adapt. And this is the world, truly. Most of it is rejection, and you have to only succeed like a good success once in your life. And that's how
To
it
look
goes.
out for those opportunities. You
Exactly.
constantly you keep doing stuff, um, and then you realize, you have to just keep going. Like, that's the only way to do it. But you mentioned you have a tech startup, and you have a podcast, and you're a computer science major as well. Let's start with the entrepreneurship part. What draws you to entrepreneurship?
It's funny because my mother and my father both, they're not entrepreneurs, but my aunt is, so she's a realtor. Um, it really comes down to, at the beginning, after my high school, I was thinking, what should I pursue? And both my parents are engineers, so they were like, yeah, go to engineering. And I looked at the world, I was like, it really going into the digital realm. So I chose computer science. But then throughout the second year, I see like all my friends, like we're coding together, we're, interacting in classes, school. And I see them just have this mindset of, oh, I just want to co-op. I just want to work, like I just want to go do this so I can work for someone else. And it really is not for me, right? I see that and I'm like, why would I dedicate my life to working for someone else? It, it's not an option for me. So I really started, I really sat down for 2 weeks and brainstormed ideas that I can start a company with. Talking to like my entrepreneur friends, and we came up with the company idea that I had originally. And it was Rapid Routes. It was a moving company that we would build a website that really, if you ever move something from A to B, you put it on this app and it pops up into the cloud, and moving companies or third-party logistics can just pick it up and do it for you seamlessly. You don't have to call anyone. And we did that. We created the prototype. It was 272 distinct pages in Figma, and we did the front end. But then the cold calling happened that I mentioned, and no one answered. 250 companies I've called, and that's like the limit in British Columbia. It seemed that nobody was interested. So we went back to the drawing board. I had a co-founder. His heart wasn't in it, so I bought his shares back. I got a new co-founder, and really went back, and we're pivoting now towards truck dispatching. So, going back to your question, it really depends. Like, I still have friends, right? I tell them, like, you guys are great coders. Why are you dedicating your life to working for someone else 9 to 5? Like, just come work for my company. I'll give you a couple percentage, but you are a part of something great. And if this succeeds, because truck dispatching is a $16 billion industry.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really comes down to what you want out of your life. And I feel like every young professional in our age, or after high school or early 20s, they have to really sit down and understand what they want out of their life and really create that path for it. Because I think traditionally, adults ask after high school, they're like, "Oh, what are you gonna do now?" But if I had a kid, I would tell them like maybe take a year off, really explore the world, see what you want. You know, don't rush it because this is the first time that you don't have to be somewhere, and it's important. My parents didn't do that, but I see its value, and I will make it correct for the next generation.
Just completely agree with you. I think we're in that era where we're just so stressed about the job market going on. And some people just get too stressed with like academics and then the job. They don't sit down and try to understand, is this what I really want to do? So it's just a couple of people following each other. Okay, this person's doing consulting, I'll do that. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but at least I have a job. So I completely agree with you on that. Other than that, as you mentioned, as I mentioned before, entrepreneurship, podcasting, full-time students. Um, how do you manage all of that? That's a lot. How do you manage all of the workload?
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
I was talking to my friends, and they were like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in 7 weeks." I'm like, "Bro, it's sprint time. It's hustle time. Truly,
Yeah.
the life is not made for everyone." And you know, I've been like, I'm compromising my own relationship with my girlfriend because we sometimes don't have much time to meet, and you know, it's tough, really. But I feel that these years are very important to shape your character and your future. So it really comes down to your priorities. What is your priority right now? And really, anyone should think about what is their priority and align their life based on that. I feel like we have this priority thing in the back of our mind, but we don't really bring it to surface and shine. And we just get distracted from our priorities and what we really want. So, how I manage is that I try to minimize the use of social media, try to minimize distractions. And when I'm working, I freaking work, you know? It's like nothing else comes to my mind. I try to be as efficient as possible. It's hard, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? And through those hard works, you really find your character and what you're capable of. And you're like, wow, I did that, so I can even do something better. And it just pushes yourself to, you know, keep breaking the boundaries and build a character that you've always wanted to be.
How do you stop the vicious circle of like scrolling? Because it's like, it's just difficult. Sometimes I just unintentionally, my phone is in my hand, and like, how do you do that?
The key thing is being self aware, right? So anything you do in your day to day life, you have to be aware of it. Um, it's really hard, truly. Like, it took me years to try to do that, and I'm still not perfect. But, like, sometimes I find myself doing that for a couple minutes. I'm like, what am I doing? But it really goes to a couple minutes. I've minimized that. So it comes down to whatever you're doing, gotta understand what you're doing at every time. Like, reflect back, reflection as well. Like, I remember for 6 months straight, at the beginning of my company, I would reflect back every night. When I was sleeping, I was like, okay, today I did this, this, this. Really go back to like minutes and see, wow, like here I could have done this better. And, you know, there, and just, you know, try to build the perfect character.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think reflection is. I also mentioned in my podcast when I came for Sadra's podcast. Hashtag watch it.
Yes.
But reflection is key. Just taking out the time to understand. Just taking out the time to like go through your day. It's just a different feeling. What are the top 3 skills or habits you think people, or rather students our age, should have to achieve success?
It's a good question. I would have to say, first one is
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
You have to be a hard worker. And success, if you see between successful people, the biggest thing that is mutual between all of them is hard work. And it doesn't matter if you're talented, talent can bring you to a certain point, but it will plateau there, and hard work brings you all the way. So the first thing is that. Second thing is being self-aware. Understand understand your goals, understand what you are. Like, people just, I feel like they just go day to day and they don't reflect and think what they want and what they need and how can they get there and really plan it out. Like, have a sheet and write down like all the things that you're good at, like where you want to be in 5 years, where you want to be in 10 years, and read it back. Like, really train your brain to think that way and be the person that you want to be. Second thing is that, and third thing is to, I want to say, to question the world that you live in. I know it's a bizarre world and there is information coming left and right and you don't know what's truth, and it's a weird era we live in. So really question the old school beliefs and break that pattern if you don't see it aligned with yourself. I think I've done that because my parents traditional, right? They've been all engineers and they have a certain path. Like, you finish high school, you go to university, you get an engineering job which is fairly paid, and you live life. You're an engineer. It's a good status, a good bachelor's and scientist at the end of the day. But I questioned that. I was like, is that the life I want? No, I don't want that. So, question, break the pattern if you see fit, and build a new era.
Are you a believer of manifestation?
100%. Manifestation, very important. Every morning, I have a list of my beliefs. There's 7 of them. I read them out loud, and then I close my eyes and think in a couple years and in 5 years where I want to be, and I speak it as I am already there. So slowly, I'm rewiring my brain to be that person I want to be. And I think rewiring your brain is a true thing, and it could only harm you. It could not harm you. It could only get you to where you want to be.
Makes sense. I think manifestation is just magical. Looking back, are there any decisions or moments that you wish you could change regarding any part of the career, maybe be entrepreneurship, maybe be podcasting, anything that you would have changed?
Yes, there is. Not in regards of that, but you know, like, I'm speaking all this stuff that it may be portrayed that I know everything. But in high school, like, everyone has flaws, right? In high school, when I initially came here, my parents were fighting. It was not a good system in the house, and they eventually separated. But I went and I found the wrong friends. And for 2, 3 years of high school, I was smoking weed, right? Pretty extensively. And one thing I would have changed is that during that time, if if I didn't do that, I would be here maybe 2, 3 years earlier. So I set myself back in that sense. And you know, your mistakes you learn from, and you have that to say that, I was there and I was in very low times because family situations and personal situations, but then I rose above and did what I'm doing now, and maybe in 5 years I'll be even better. So, it's like if you see someone on the internet, like right now, right? I was talking about, wow, like this, that, but there's always a backstory that they have flaws and they've had those hard times, but it's about how you come above that and how you build your character the way you want after those, and self-reflect.
And any other, like, one advice that you would like to give to your younger self? And maybe adding to that.
It is true that they say the 5 people you spend the most time with,
Yes.
they truly build your character. So what I would have said is that choose your crew wisely. Very important. So I would have just said that. Maybe that would have suited me more nicely.
I think that experience was something that made you understand this life is not cut out for me. I am not that person that you were a couple of years ago, and now you're at a position where people look up to you. I look up to you. I
Thank you.
aspire to be like you. I love the way you speak, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you very much.
That is all for Sadra's podcast. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.